No, it's okay. Looks good. It's a little jarring if you're watching the video. It's not too bad. Hey, so we're doing a special edition Home Gadget Geeks, a little crypto conversation, a little community conversation is kind of what I've said around this. Nathaniel pinged me back in the Facebook group earlier in the week and said, had some questions after I posted the Coinbase incentive. By the way, there's a link in our Facebook group. If you join Coinbase and deposit 100, you'll get a $10 bonus. I'll get a $10 bonus. That's out in the Facebook group if you want to do it. But he had some questions, and I just prefer, to be honest, to just get online and answer these kind of questions directly. If you're watching this or listening to this after, maybe it's sometime in 2018, we actually did a whole show with Edward Weniger, Home Gadget Geeks 339, which just released yesterday, but depends on when you're listening to this. And Edward and I dug into a lot on the crypto side. It's moving so fast. Nathaniel Lindley has said, agreed to join me for this conversation today. Nathaniel, from a remote location, undisclosed remote location. Nathaniel, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in a warmer location than usual. I'm told that it's 14 below in Minneapolis right now, and it's not 14 below here. So
yeah. Well, it's
much warmer.
We're looking at 20 below for both Sunday and Monday here in the Omaha area, and so not showing any signs of letting up too much, but not any snow in that either. So we're doing okay. No, all right. Well, let's It's just it makes you stronger. What doesn't kill you just doesn't kill you. So let me dig in a little bit and kind of set. There's some things I have learned, Nathaniel, through this, and let me kind of just set the stage for the average guy if they're thinking about getting into this. And then I know you have some specific questions, and we're going to dig into that as well. But when we think of cryptocurrency today, a lot of people think of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has become kind of the Kleenex of the industry. When we think about now, the average guy, the consumer, the public, Joe Public, when they think of cryptocurrency, they say Bitcoin. Nathaniel, have you noticed that? Everybody, it's like, oh, it's Bitcoin. Well, that's just a flavor of it that's out there. Are you hearing that as well? What most people just use Bitcoin that way?
Yeah. Bitcoin is the generic brand term for cryptocurrency in my circles too. So just as Kleenex to tissue and TiVo to DVRs and recording and that.
So there's a little bit of that going on. Of course, there's 60 some altcoins or so, and that number, I haven't even counted them all. So I'm kind of just thinking about what's out there. There are a bunch of altcoins. A lot of people think they're new. Many of them started in 2014, and they've been sitting at zero or just above zero for the last 2 years, kind of dormant. And we'll talk about trading here in a few minutes, but they've kind of all picked up just in the last 6 months as people are recognizing more and more about Bitcoin. When we think about interacting with this cryptocurrency environment, for the average guy, there's really 3 different ways to do it. One is through the traditional mining method. So when we think of mining cryptocurrency, everybody think of GPUs, right? Buying very expensive graphics processors. Those are the ones that gamers would use. You can do CPU mining. It's not very profitable in a lot of cases. Many of the algorithms have advanced beyond that, and they're much more difficult now. And so you need more and more powerful hardware to do it. So when you hear about people building mining rigs, they're building them using GPUs, typically a high-end video card. The more high-end, the more you can do, the more power it consumes as well. So there's GPU or CPU mining that's available for most. There's a kind of a newer, I should say. It's not really new, but we've most recently got interested in this coin called Burst. It's storage-based mining. In other words, you're using hard drives or plotted space on hard drives to do the calculations in advance, and then you use those plots to help mine the Burst blockchain. I have to remember in all this conversation, the blockchain is really the technology behind all this, not the coins. The coins are really the gimmick to get people to mine or to get people to help solve the equations of the blockchain. They had to have some motivation to get people to do it. And so the rewards to that are these coins, up until recently, not worth very much, but have gotten to be a lot more interest. So Burst is one of those companies, because the power consumption is so large on the GPU side. Burst is saying, hey, we can do this same kind of mining, but we can use hard drives. The typical hard drive runs at about 5 watts. A GPU runs at, let's just say, 195 watts, something like that, 150 to 250, depending on the GPU. So much less power is used. A lot of people are concerned about the power consumption that's involved in this, because we are burning a lot of energy to do mining to mine these blockchains. The third way to really get involved in this is selling or renting hard drive space. Nice Hash was a kind of they sold or they rented hashing space. That's a little, it's kind of like GPU mining. You can get involved in it, except you could rent that. In the case of storage, or in the case of SIA, you're actually renting your available hard drive space locally, the stuff that you have, making that available to other consumers, either in shards like for storage, or either like in whole blocks like it is for SIA. And you use the cryptocurrency to complete these transactions of storing it for you. So think of OneDrive or Dropbox. There are these kinds of implementations, except it's more the Airbnb or the Uber of Dropbox, right? You can personally go to someone and pay them for hard drive space. They'll secure it and store it and then give it back to you when you want it. So those are three kind of, right now, the three main ways of getting in. You don't have to get into this crypto market. You don't have to do any of those. By the way, you can just join an exchange. This whole thing started because I put a link out to Coinbase. There are three organizations in the United States. Depending on your location, you should check and see what's legal to use in your locale. But in the United States, there are three. I've kind of landed on Coinbase, but Coinbase allows you to get US dollars into cryptocurrency. So it converts it from US dollars into Bitcoin in this case. With Coinbase, there's three other coins available: Ethereum, Litecoin, and now Bitcoin Cash. All of those you can buy. In fact, Nathaniel and I are going to do a transaction. We traded some components. I'm going to pay him for the shipping and a little bit for the device. We're going to use Litecoin. So I put some money in Litecoin. It's transacting now. I'll give him some Litecoin. He can do whatever he wants with that to make that happen. So I can go into Coinbase. Isn't really an exchange. It's really a place where you can put money in and convert it to this cryptocurrency. And then there are several exchanges around the world. Polynex is one I've been using. Bittrex is another one I've been using. And you can buy and sell these coins using Bitcoin, not the dollar, but using Bitcoin as kind of the reference coin for all these trades. And if you just think about it like the stock market, it's pretty similar in the sense that you can go in and buy coins. I can take Bitcoin and convert it to Litecoin. And then with that Litecoin, I can convert it back to Bitcoin and buy Monero or buy Ripple or any of those other coins that are available. So I can get involved in an exchange, but I got to get the money in first. So money comes in through Coinbase, and then I can move it to an exchange. Nathaniel, you've probably seen all these transactions take a little bit. It costs. There's a cost. There's a fee. In the early days, these fees were pretty small. They're getting to be more and more as these things get more and more popular. It's kind of an unintended consequence to the system. As you think about, you're obviously, I'm sending your Litecoin, so you're kind of been working in this, but are you aware of fees? And do you ever watch, before you do something on the blockchain, do you get concerned about fees?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if that's an unintended consequence or an intended consequence. So I'm not sure on that. So
the fees going up, you mean? Is that
yeah.
what you're? Yeah, it's absolutely intended. To be honest, I was doing a little jab at that.
Yeah. Bitcoin is trying to make it harder and harder to mine the last coins and to process transactions. And I don't understand all the way the blockchain works, but the transaction takes more effort over time, which means that people can pay more to have their transactions processed faster. So an exchange can charge you more, say $50 a transaction fee, but they'll get ahead in the queue for the proof of work transaction verification. Whereas Litecoin, there are presumably fewer transactions or fewer monetary value and so those transactions go faster. And I think some of it depends on the crypto. So the different coins transact faster or lower depending on volume or block size. So what it comes down to is I'm like in Coinbase, if you want to send me Litecoin, it's going to say, okay, you want to send $10 worth of Litecoin to Nathaniel. Here's what it's going to cost you out of your Litecoin wallet. And here's the transaction fee we're going to skim off the top. So Coinbase is pretty transparent on what are the fees to do this transaction, either to buy or just transfer or to sell.
Yeah.
And so the Ethereum and Litecoin transaction fees are much lower per coin and presumably then per dollar amount. So for you
Yeah,
to send me $20 in Litecoin is a smaller transaction fee than $20 in Bitcoin is
correct.
my
Because
assumption.
today, so it's a bid. We talked about this a little bit on the show with Edward. In Bitcoin, when you're trading Bitcoins, it's a bid based system, and so you can bid, like you said, to get the transaction ahead, placed ahead, and that's important because if you don't pay enough, that transaction could never complete. That's possible.
Or or the time it takes to finish the transaction, the value could change
Correct.
dramatically.
Correct. And
So if you
we
watch
were
the 24-hour cycle on any of the coins, there's a big change.
Yeah. And we were looking at a 22-hour cycle on Bitcoin for a while. It was so hot and so popular, and the queues were so long. It was taking that long for it, up to 24 hours for it to even confirm in the system. Basically, you have to put it in, and then it's a distributed networked system. So you're putting the money in, and then the systems have to they have this conversion, right? This is as a distributed environment. The trust that's built into the system is built on the other nodes being able to confirm that this
Mm-hmm.
transaction has taken place, right? And so it
Yeah.
has this system of conversion. It's like, okay, did it take place? Yes, yes, yes. In the case of like Bittrex, when I'm on that exchange and I make a deposit into Bittrex, they require 30 confirmations before it even becomes real. So it has to be confirmed 30 times on the nodes going around to say, yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. That has to happen. This is very different for a lot of people to kind of think because today we think about buying something, it's a one-to-one transaction. But because the blockchain backs up is the essence of all this, and it's truly distributed. There's no one place the blockchain exists that's kind of the master record, so to speak. They're all copies and versions, and they're all in sync. If you ever create a wallet, if you're going to get into this and you ever create a wallet, that wallet has to sync to the blockchain first. It actually downloads the whole blockchain into the wallet and you transact on it. Now, the good news is you become a node then when you have a wallet with the blockchain, you become a node. And if a DDoS attack or someone hacked a blockchain somewhere else, there would be hundreds or thousands or even hundreds of thousands copies of this blockchain in existence that they could go back to get the blockchain. That's right. That's the distributed nature of this. That's why it works the way it does, right? So, but you have to get these confirmations. In the case of Bitcoin, you're right, it's bid based. And right now, the transactions have gotten so high on Bitcoin. This is one of the problems with it and why I don't think it'll be the future. You're spending 20, 25, $30 to make a transaction. Well, if you and I are going to trade $20, Nathaniel, if I'm going to pay you
Mm-hmm.
for your shipping, and it's a $20 fee, it doesn't make any sense, right? That's why we've chose to go to the Litecoin side because those transaction fees. Let me be clear. To get that, I took $100 and moved it into Litecoin so I could pay you, right? That cost me $2.99 on Coinbase. That's part of their fee coming in. So if you're going to get into this, I think you have to be very conscious of the fees that you're paying. It can get pretty expensive. It's not unlike trading on the stock market in the 80s when it first became available mostly to the general public. And people saw, man, there were a ton of fees involved. And Ameritrade, of course, broke that fee down by saying, hey, $7 unlimited trades, right? That disrupted the market and made that easier. So, Nathaniel, when we're thinking about fees, I think we have to be really, really careful. And in most cases, most of these systems are very transparent about what the fees are when you move them. Every time I do a transaction in Bittrex or in Polynex, it says to me, hey, this is the transaction you're going to make. Here's the fee
Yeah.
associated with it. So,
Yeah. And the one thing you could compare this, if you wanted to compare this to sort of stock trading or mutual funds, is that as far as I know, there aren't hidden fees. There aren't other fees. It did not cost me anything to become a member of Coinbase or Polynex. I registered,
correct.
verified. I didn't have to pay to be in that group, and I don't know that there are any management fees to maintain my account and wallet. I have to pay X amount. The way I understand it is it's all transaction based. So yesterday, example, I sent 0.81 Litecoin to Polynex from Coinbase. So 0.81 Litecoin at that time was $198. So in the transaction log, it says, I sent it to this address, the long string. It has a confirmation of 435 nodes in the Litecoin network confirmed that transaction. And the fee associated, it says right there, was 0.000226 Litecoin. So
Which turned out to
that,
be what? Converted to
let's
US
see.
dollars.
it could have been. So it's hard to tell because I downloaded the tax basis report,
Hmm.
and so it could have been $30 or 14. It's hard to tell from this what that meant. But if you just take 0.002, I think that was the number. Go back here. Sorry. Oh, I just closed the window. Nice
Oh,
job.
it's okay. You can always while you're finding
But you
that.
could convert it.
Yeah. One of the things I have found very helpful is just go on Google, go LTC, that's the symbol for Litecoin. LTC to USD. And it'll give you it'll find you a link where you can then just go in and put in the amount of Litecoin and then what its value is at the moment. Litecoin has been dipping today. And so
Yeah.
where I bought some Litecoin 2 days ago at 260, it's now 224 as of right this second. So I've actually lost money on that transaction. It's going to be more expensive to pay for that shipping, Nathaniel,
Yeah.
it's going to, yeah, and this is the nature of this, by the way. Still why I think it's not necessarily ready. Any of them are ready for prime time transactional. We keep thinking of this as currency, and it's really not. I don't think, my opinion is, cryptocurrency is not ready for transactions as we think of them. It's still way too volatile. The US dollar does not move for us hardly at all. And we are kind of used to, that shipping was $18. And in the past, I would have sent you $18 on PayPal
Right.
and we'd have been done. Like I wouldn't have been worried whether I sent it this week or last week, $18 is still $18. Well, that $18 is now going to cost me $25 in US dollars sense because the price has dropped so much on it. It's a great example of why I don't think we're ready for this to become a currency. It's just not stable enough.
Well, yeah, I think according to this, 0.000226 is like 6 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
So
that was always the promise of Bitcoin in the early days. His transaction fees were so low, and
yeah,
because there was no traffic.
but what I want to see happen, I think the reason you and I exercise this of how can we exchange a value between each other for services, whether gifts or not a gift. And I like the concept of a digital currency that is peer to peer like this and does not have to route through a PayPal or a Wells Fargo or a Venmo. And you're right, it's not going to be really useful until it stabilizes the value. Because if Litecoin were to dip and then you had just transferred me $20 of Litecoin, but now it's worth $2, I've lost value on that transaction. And I think the difference is that I'm trying to reconcile in my head is that all cryptocurrency and digital currency is extremely volatile right now. So it's not useful as an exchange medium between people because the government currencies or fiat is far more stabilized in most cases, so it can serve that purpose. So if there's a way over time that some of these cryptocurrencies become very stable and you can say, oh, one Litecoin is equal to $1 or $100, then it could be useful for that sort of transactions.
Yeah, and we see this in the international markets. By the way, this is not a foreign concept. In the international markets, if we're taking the dollar to the Canadian dollar, or if we're trying to get euros, or if we are, rubles, those fluctuate. We just don't ever buy things in those currencies. The U.S. dollar is as a strong currency. It's something most Americans don't ever trade outside of U.S. dollars, so they just don't see it that way. If you were involved in international markets, you would see how the currency. Now, we're talking about big nation states, and those trading valuations don't often change in wild fluctuations like they're doing now on these
Right.
cryptocurrencies. That would be different in the case of a nation state that was having hyperinflation or hyperdeflation. We may see that change, and there have been points in history where that has changed. We haven't seen that in a major market in the in the world in years now. It doesn't say it doesn't happen, and it has happened to some countries. You think about what China has done with their currency, with the yuan. They artificially propped that up for a lot of times to keep it same value to the U.S. dollar, so it didn't move. So you're going to have a lot of volatility in the system, and I agree with you that right now, and we've just proved it, that I don't think it's a great idea to try to make it a transfer of value, even though that's what it was intended for. Right now, there's so much speculation and money flowing into this, and these prices vary so wildly that I'm not sure it's great for that. Case in point, in a week, we have seen, shoot, in 2 days, I've seen Litecoin go from 260 to 220. That's a fairly good drop, and has made it fairly expensive for me to now pay you this $20 for shipping.
Well, then the question is, if you say you owe me $20 for this, do you pay me $20 of Litecoin at the time of the transaction that you choose to make? $20 of Litecoin at the time that the transaction was originated. So if I shipped something to you on Wednesday and you promised to pay for that shipping on Wednesday, would you pay me the equivalent of $18 of Litecoin as of that Wednesday, whatever the value on Wednesday was, or would you pay me as of Monday next week, whatever the equivalent is? I mean, I'm not, obviously this is just an exercise in, hypotheticals, but if the taxes are saying when you mine the coin or you get the coin at a certain value, that's when you realize the asset. And then when you sell it or exchange it, that's when you realize the gain or the loss. I don't know how you would apply that to, person-to-person transactions.
Yeah, Ryan Jackson in the chat room says I'd never pay for shipping with my stocks, so it doesn't make sense to do it with crypto. That's if you see cryptocurrency as stocks, like if you see it as an asset as opposed to a currency, right? This is the debate in this. He says the only reason I could see for needing to send through means other than a PayPal type service is for black market needs. It is certainly in the black market space, in the crime space. It is being used that way. It is untraceable, untrackable. Now, that's not necessarily true. It's completely trackable. It's just anonymously trackable. So we don't know who's at the other end of these transactions. Often case that's debatable. I've heard people say there are ways of doing it. If it because of the popularity, it has picked up in these nefarious way. It has gotten criminal activities gotten involved with. In fact, when we had Larry and Kat from Ghost Browser on the program, Kat was super against any cryptocurrency because all she knew about was from ransomware and Monero and its crime space and some of those other things. Okay, so but that being said, right, this is supposed to be a system that's built on the transfer of value, right? This has been the promise of many of these coins, is that it gives the ability to easily and effectively and inexpensively, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, transact value. In our case, the market's swinging so wildly right now, it doesn't make sense. If we had done this transaction on Bitcoin a year ago or even 2 years ago, Bitcoin never moved. The value, it would have been fine from that standpoint. It's just the increase in popularity has added volatility to the market. I think, to Ryan's point, this volatility has made it more like a stock or an asset than it has like a currency. And so we're not doing, let me be really, really clear. I'm paying you the $20 in shipping in Litecoin because I want to test the system, right? I want to have, typically any other time, I just would have sent it through PayPal, and pay the fees.
And it is, it is interesting. It is probably up to the person who provides the service, Nathaniel, to dictate how he wants to be paid. So if I'm a shipper, and maybe that's my business, right? I ship stuff. And if I say, I only take euros, then you're going to have to convert US dollars to euros or whatever that exchange rate is, plus whatever transaction fees, and you would pay me in euros. If I wanted in rubles, you would have to do the same. So if I'm saying I want Litecoin and I'm not concerned about the volatility of Litecoin in a week, but when you get to the transaction within a certain time range, say a week, you have to pay me $20 worth of Litecoin at that current rate. That goes in as, 0.1 Litecoin, right? 0.02, 0.08. It's not a whole lot of Litecoin.
Right.
Into my Litecoin wallet, which I give you a public address. So, and I can use multiple public addresses per wallet. I believe I can create more than one destination address for you. But if I get 0.1 Litecoin, and I sit on it and it gains in value to zero point 0.3, you're not losing it because you only lost the $20 at the time you paid the service. I happen to be gaining because I didn't reconvert it back into US dollars. But I could also lose. So it's my gamble of whether I take euros, rubles,
Yeah.
or Litecoin.
It's, to be honest with you, it's not all that different than when I go to buy a car. And we say a car depreciates the second you drive it off the lot, because the value at the time you bought it was the value that you were willing to pay when you purchased the car. Then if you were trying to resell it, there's not a big market for the resale of cars as soon as somebody drives them off the lot. And so you're going to have
Right.
to pay a discount for somebody to be able to take that on, right? There's that same devaluation possibility. It could have gone the other way around, to be honest. I could have put 100 in Litecoin. The market could have moved. I could have paid you, I'm still waiting for those dollars. It's taking 7 days to move that money from my checking account. I don't know if some of it's the holiday or what, but it's taking 7 days for the cash to get from my bank to Coinbase. Now, I've already bought it on Coinbase at the higher price. It's already listed there at the
Yep.
at the 260 price. By the time it becomes real, say it became real today, it would be worth 220 to
221.
me. We agreed on a $20 fee. I'm going to pay you $20 in Litecoin as of today, because that's, we agreed on a US dollar. What we could have done, just hypothetically, is we could have established a Litecoin price that would have said,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do this for 2 Litecoin. That'd be too much, but like
That'd be nice.
0.02 0.02 or 0.002 or whatever, and that would have stabilized the transaction for you and me. But well, no, not for me, because I'm still varying on the market, right? But we could have done it that way. We chose US dollars, and so I'm gonna send you something the equivalent to you, which is gonna end up costing me more. This is a drawback to the market, and I'm not saying we should be doing this because it's the right way to do it. I'm just doing it because I like to test the system and being able to talk about it.
Right. And we want to find out, how does this work? But that's an interesting twist, is if I had said, I'm willing to ship this to you for 0.1 Litecoin, then I'm the one assuming the risk.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Well, you are too, because you don't know what that 0.1 is going to cost you.
No, totally. Yeah, it's a totally different. But we just, as Americans, and really actually in any country, currency is so stable in a lot of ways. We just don't think about that fast of a valuation move. It going from 260 to 220 as a percentage wise is a pretty good drop.
Yeah.
And so we don't think about that in terms of paying for things that way. So just a different way. The system will stabilize, right? I mean, we're going through a bubble. The bubble will burst. Prices will drop. Some will stay the same, I think. There are some of these altcoins that have really good value to them, or they'll have never realized their complete value, and they'll grow over time if they're providing a service that's sustainable, those kinds of things. But I think for today, the market's pretty volatile. And so it gets a little bit harder to predict some of that. What should we or what could we be doing? If to be honest with you, if I'd had Litecoin in my wallet at the time, and at the time of you shipping it, I could have just paid you right there. The big problem has been I had to get money into the system, and it's taking 5 to 7 days for those US dollars to be converted into crypto, Litecoin in this case. And then and so that delay added this weird, and we happen to have a big drop. It had been going up. So, if it had been the other way where I bought it and it kept climbing, all of a sudden my $20 investment to you, my $20 shipping to you gets cheap. Like, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. And that is true. Like, if you don't have the coins confirmed in your wallets, whether it's with Coinbase or an offline wallet or Fallenex, and that confirmed means that multiple nodes in the chain have confirmed this transaction is valid, then you're kind of in this stuck state. And I think that's the challenge that the exchanges like Kraken and Coinbase have, is how can they handle the volatile nature of trading the way traditional stock market systems have.
Yeah.
So when things start going up, they're seeing a whole bunch of people selling and buying, and when things drop, I mean, it's just been that I can't imagine the sysadmins at these different exchanges trying to keep the site working. I mean, there was a point in early December where Coinbase was hard to get to load because there was such a run. So
Yeah.
I think Coinbase is one of the more mature ones that's going to be able to grow, and we'll see what happens with the others. But Coinbase is very limited to only 4 coin types right now.
For now, and I think they were smart to choose not to try and take them all on from a scalability perspective, because it gets more and more complicated. Each one of these, like I've been on Bittrex, which has stopped accepting new customers, by the way, at this point. But I got in there before they shut that down. I'm seeing the Ripple wallet go into maintenance every night. And they're doing, whatever it was, whatever. Ripple was one that got real popular real fast. And so it's, I'll say this, right? These are, I lived through the .com boom, right? I lived through 97, 98, 99. I started trading online in the very early days of trading with Ameritrade in 98, 99, as that's kind of fueled that .com boom. It feels a lot like it. And there's a little bit of FOMO, and there's a little bit of there's a lot of volatility, and there's a lot of crazy, like people are like, how can you even financially justify some of this? That all exists. I think if you're going to think about doing something like this, you have to suspend reason. Otherwise you'll go crazy. If you bring reason into this market, you're like, people are, it doesn't right now. It doesn't work very well to try to be reasonable in this space, because it's just valuations, new coins popping up. All these things seem to be crazy. I watched Z Classic yesterday go from $7 to $140 or something like that, 120 maybe in a day. And you're like, holy, what was that all about? I was trying to figure out why. I still don't know why. All right, so that kind of covers a lot of the exchanges and in trading, and I think this isn't, like I said, this isn't all that new. It's just a new way of buying, selling, trading, taking risks. It's the new horse race is what it is in a lot of ways. There's no guarantees. There's a lot of room for success. There's a lot of room for failure in it. You can get into an exchange and never mine a single coin. You can just put money in and play on the exchanges and do it that way. That's one way to get in. Nathaniel, have you mined at all to this point?
So unfortunately I have started.
Sorry, I apologize for that.
No, but I think, as you and Dave and others have expressed, a good many members of this podcast and Dave's podcast are tinkerers by nature. Yeah. And we like being presented with challenges and problems that don't have clear answers and solutions, and trying to figure it out and understand it. And so I've got the bug, and I have purchased the parts, mostly new. I didn't have any used parts that would support a new video card. So I did have to buy a new motherboard, a low-end Pentium processor, a little bit of RAM, and I have I bought a very good power supply for future-proofing that is way overkill for what I need, but it's one of the more expensive parts, but it is a platinum rated, so it's extremely efficient, and it could take several video cards. It's 1,000-watt EVGA platinum rated power supply. But anyway, I put this rig together. I got 2 GTX 1070s running, and I've set up Awesome Miner, like a lot of folks in the pool or in the group, and I used both the Electronium OCUK mining pool for a while, and now I had that split between that and the mining hub pool, and I had both of them running for a while. Now I'm just on the mining hub pool, and my real goal is to try to see, after a month of running this, what my costs are and what my earning is. So I'm not doing the auto exchange and mining pool hub. Yeah. I'm just letting the altcoins accumulate, except for the Digibyte coin, which seems to accumulate much faster than the other ones. I've earned probably 90 of those already, and they don't have a huge value, which is why you earn more of them. And I've been transferring those out of Mining Pool Hub into an external wallet on a computer as an
keeping them
auto
locally.
exchange.
Keeping them
Yeah. So
locally.
in Mining Pool Hub, you can say once this coin reaches a threshold of X, and I chose 30.0, transfer it to this external wallet. So it's not sitting in Mining Pool Hub. If there's a problem with Mining Pool Hub, then I'm under the assumption that since those are an external wallet, they're safe.
Yeah, and
At first, I
I'm in the
had
same
it.
boat as you, by the way. I have about 300 of those now, and I need to move them
Yeah.
into I'm keeping them in. They're not worth very much,
No.
but I need to think about moving them into an external wallet, a local wallet.
Yeah, because I think the point, what I'm not sure I want to do is, do I want to use the mining rig with the graphics cards to try to collect a variety of small altcoins like Digibyte and Feathercoin and Vert and B Classic and all these oddball altcoins and accumulate them. I have 254 Electroneum in a wallet. Okay, that's worth about $2.54, now. But will one of these altcoins be the future Litecoin or Ethereum, where it's now $1 per coin or $10 per coin or $100 per coin? So that's sort of my question is, do I want to mine these altcoins that have low individual value right now but may increase over time, or do I want to continually convert them into a coin that has value right now, like Litecoin or Ethereum?
Yeah,
because you can do that too. You can say, take all these little ones, and when it reaches a threshold, transfer them into Litecoin, and when that reaches a threshold, send it to my external wallet.
Right. I think, okay, so this is pure speculation at this point. I love what you're doing. I'm very similar. In fact, I've been mining that same way. I keep the smaller coins, and I actually turn the more profitable ones into the smaller ones, because I think the value in this point in this market is amassing smaller coins, lower value, more numbers of them. If I can get 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, in the case of Saya, I have about 10,000 Saya coins now. If that thing goes, it has the most potential. By the way, I've put very little money into this, with the exception of buying video cards. I'm not depositing money. I'm mining everything I make. I'm mining. And then that kind of goes. Then I kind of mess with that. So it's not like I'm taking my own money into this. I am, because I'm paying for it in power. So don't get me wrong, but that's kind of the way it works. So I'm kind of at this point, I think the market first of the year is going to back up a little bit, and I think it's going to make all those things valuable or good to buy. Those cheaper coins are going to get even cheaper. They're going to push that market down a little bit, so you can amass the coins that way. Now, the cool thing about Awesome Miner is it always finds the most profitable coin in the market at that time. So you're always mining at the max profitability. So let that generate those coins. Then, like Bitcoin Gold right now has been hot. Z Classic, I mentioned earlier, that one was really profitable for a while. Zencash, Zcash, those are all really profitable, popular coins right now. Not ones I'm sure I want to hold on to. They're pretty expensive, $200, $300, $400 associated with them. I do want to take those earnings, though, that I'm making on those, because their difficulties are down and they're just profitable against Bitcoin. Turn those into smaller Digicoin. I like that's one I think I can amass a bunch of. I'm trying to amass a bunch of Sai. I'm trying to amass. There's some other ones. Ripple is another one I want to get my hands on, because I think it's got some tremendous upside. Do I know beyond the shadow of a doubt it's going to do that? Not a freaking chance. Like I'm just like everybody else, I'm just speculating on these. But my strategy going into January is going to be try to amass as many coins as I can. Not the value. I'm not worried so much about their value. I'm worried about numbers of coins. Because if you hold, just this week, I was holding Z Classic. I had one coin, and it went from 7 to 120. Oh, well, cool. Well, I made $100 that day. That was kind of cool. But imagine having 10,000 of those and seeing a move like that, right? That's kind of that exponential growth we're looking for. Will it? I don't know. I don't know if any of those will do it. Will Digicoin become? Will Ripple become? I don't know. But that's kind of the strategy I'm taking right now, is try to take the most profitable coins, convert them into coins that have the lowest dollar value that still are interesting, and then try to amass just as many coins as I can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I no, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's I think what they call a penny stock scenario, where you're trying to buy the
Yeah.
cheapest stocks that you think have potential down the road, hoping that they'll gain value, and you're spreading your risk in purchasing or trading for lots of low value stocks or
Yeah.
coins with hope that one or two of them might actually prove to be valuable in the future.
Yeah. And I'm
But
spreading that risk across. I still keep some of those more, the Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin, Litecoin, some of those that are in. I'm still keeping some of those as well to hedge my bets against those cheaper coins.
yeah, what I'm struggling with is trying to decide when do you cash out and how much. And so I've done a mixture of purchasing coins through Coinbase and mining now. And so I had a capital outlay to set up this mining rig, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you say, oh, well, if you mine for 4 months and this is your average return, then you can have it paid off then if you cash out. But then if you cash out, you don't have those coins you just made.
Yeah, but
So
so
then when
you
you
don't
do
you
that,
don't cash out. So you see it as you're making an investment into a business. Like if you started a business, say a sewing machine business, you were going to sew garments and you had to buy a sewing machine. You're never gonna in this case, you're never necessarily going to cash that out to pay for the investment. That's just a capital outlay that you bought to get going. It becomes a part of the business.
right? And I think that's where the IRS treats mining as self-employment.
It does. It does.
So then what I'm intending to do is keep track of my expenses. So how much
Correct.
did I pay for these cards, for this motherboard, the power supply, and maybe even I track electricity usage.
You should.
And
Yep.
if it turns to be profitable in a year or two, and all of a sudden, who knows, maybe I've made $5,000 in 2 years in self-employment, then in my tax reporting, I say, well, I made $5,000, but I also paid out $1,000 of capital investment. How would that work on my taxes as a
Mm-hmm.
lost gain of self-employment?
Yeah, and you can also, and again, I'm no tax attorney, but since you're being treated like a small business and you're going to file a 1040 SE here in the United States, there are some SE rules about square footage in an office area that you're using just for this.
Right.
So you can some of those things, some of the all the equipment can be included as, and you can choose to take that as a annual write-off, or you can depreciate it based on the depreciation rules. Again, you have to consult a tax attorney on this. So there's if all those systems can be worked against you and for you. You just have to kind of know, kind of what you're doing. There's some big questions. Will the IRS put a threshold on the amount? In other words, I have to mine over a certain amount for it to be considered. That hasn't been decided yet, but that could come out as well. A ruling could come out of that in 2018 to say, no, you have to generate $10,000 or more in mining activity for us to even count it, or whatever that is. 500, it could be as low as.
Well,
So
and is it per year? Is it when did you realize it?
yeah,
So if I mine 100 digibyte coin now, but I don't sell them for 2 years when they're worth $100,000, something ridiculous. Well, how does that work?
yeah.
First in, I don't
Well,
know.
if it were me, and this is how I'm going to do it with the taxes. If I mine Digibyte this year, I'm gonna and I realize it, whatever that means, like whatever realization means. I'm gonna pay self-employment taxes on it at that point. Then when I sell it, it's that already has a fixed value there, and then whatever I've made, I've got to pay capital gains or whatever however they're gonna do it on that. You got to keep good records. If you're gonna do this, you got to keep really, really good records.
Well, that makes it hard because if you're using Awesome Miner and Mining Pool Hub, you
Mm-hmm.
could get random coin of the month. And then you've got to create some of the coins, you have to create a wallet just for that coin, unless you want to store it at Mining Pool Hub, which I think if you amassed 100 coins of something, you wouldn't want to do that. And so then what I'm thinking is maybe I tell Mining Pool Hub, don't mine these coins. So stick within these 10 coins and use the profitability of these 10 instead of any on. I don't know.
It's
It's,
complicated, Nathaniel. It is
yeah.
super complicated, and I think this most people think the hard part is setting up the miners and getting them attached to whatever and mining and some of those. Then all of a sudden there's been like, hey, the IRS is like, hey, we want our cut. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, geez, what does this mean? I've been trying to keep really good records. I'm going to sit down. The really important question is at what point do you consider things realized? That's the question that has to be asked in this. If I generate these and in the second they're generated, is it realized? Is it realized the second I move them out of the pool? Is it realized when I move them over to an exchange? Is it realized when I convert them? I think that's the question that has to be asked. And the rules aren't clear with the IRS, and it only matters if you get audited, right? You could fill out your taxes, and the only time it's going to get sticky is if the IRS comes back and says, nope, that's not right. We're going to do an audit. Then you're on the hook, right? Then you got to defend yourself at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be hard because there's also the conversion problem. So if you convert your Litecoin to Ripple, and then that gains or losses, but you put mining effort into mining the Litecoin, which then you converted to Ripple, which has a gain or loss that's independent of Litecoin. How are they going to calculate that?
Yeah, and it's going to matter when it's realized, right? And
I think they just have to. I think however you acquired the coin, you just have to. I don't know. It's going to be a mess. It would be interesting if we have in the first quarter of 2018 some more definitive answers from Coinbase, from the IRS. What does the new tax law mean towards this?
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, my purpose right now is to learn more about it, to accumulate some coins of different variety, and just sort of experience it. But I'm not taking any money out of the system. I'm not converting any back to US dollars in 2017. 2018, I might look at that and decide, hey, this has been enough. Obviously, the Bitcoin that I bought in July has matured quite a bit. So it's a sort of, do I take it out now and realize that payback, or do I hold it for longer? I mean, it's the classic question that you have as a trader.
Well, Bitcoin is dropping right now. Actually, the whole markets are dropping right now, and you could justify that by saying this is what people are doing. They're getting out now, and they're converting it into whatever they're going to do to get it fully realized and out of the system before the end of the year, because there's so much we don't know what 2018 is going to look like. And so I think there's a whole bunch of investors that are just cashing out and like, hey, I'm going to convert this into currency and I'm going to leave it in cash, and I can always put it back in the system if I need to. But I definitely think we're seeing some profit taking. It's funny how many stock terms actually fit well in this space, right? Profit taking would be what you do with the stock at the end of the year. Realize your profits, put them into something else, get them into something more stable, and let the market have its way. What's been interesting, it has been dropping, and I think it will. Edward said this on the program. He said there's going to be some of that here towards the end of the year, and probably a dip in January, and then it should start moving back up just based on the numbers. It should start moving back up in February, March, April timeframe.
Well, then January would be a good time to buy.
It would be an awesome time to buy. Yeah, no, I think you would think based on that model, you would think in a market that's this volatile, anything can spook it. Mike Uyghur and I, in a post show, had a long, heated conversation about this. That being rational and things that make sense don't necessarily play in this kind of market, and so we don't know. Anything could spook, like any really negative news around the blockchain. People could be like, you know what, I'm out. I can't get into this. When money starts exiting, it's going to be the last man standing, right? If that kind of scenario happens, who's going to exit last? That's who pays the most. There's a lot of money, and these market caps of some of these coins are pretty high, which means there's a lot of cash in these systems of value. They drop and they try to realize and get that out. Now, a lot of that cash is fake, doesn't really exist. The market caps are just based on the valuations of the coin at the time. Why is Z Classic at $100 today? There's no fundamentals behind that. It just means people are willing to pay $100 for it. If that situation stops, it'll go back to $1, and all that money that was put in will be lost, right? We've seen this. It's the same exact thing in the stock market. That's the funny thing. It's just exactly it's what people are willing to pay, right, to get it done. Ryan had asked one more. We talked about your rig. You had mentioned all the components that were that. And so if you're thinking like, how do I do this? Well, it's no different than just having a PC with a video card in it. You can there are just Google mining rigs on or look for it on YouTube. Man, you'll see all kinds of different ways people have built this. This is the way I'm. But basically, and you just described it here a second ago. Once you get your mining rig up and working, then you need to attach a miner to it. And that miner needs to either go in a pool or mine on its own. And then you put that in a wallet. It's not much more complicated. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Uyghur put a video on our Facebook group that talks about how to do it with Miner. Really pretty good explanation of how to get it done. It's a great way to start.
Yeah, and I like the way that was mentioned. I think it was Eric that said, if you're interested in this and you have a computer that can take a better video card, just buy a video card. Just put in a 1060, a 1070, an AMD card, and just try it with one card to see if you can proof of concept. Can you make it work? Can you attach it to a pool? Can you put it, convert it into a wallet, just to see if you can get all the pieces in the chain going, and then decide what you want to do from there. And that's the point I'm at. I built one, I proved the concept, it works. And now I want to let it run for a month to see, is this going to be valuable to me? And it does heat up the basement. Like, it's the warmest room in the house right now because it's just
not bad
24/7. But it's running pretty low power. I mean, it's around 300 watts for the two cards, two 1070s. Mm-hmm. And when the monitor's off, it's even a little bit less because it's not outputting any video. So we'll see. It's sort of a hobby, and try to see what works for me. But if you were curious about it, that's what I would say is if you have a desktop that can run a better card, put a better card in and try it there and see what to do.
And that's how I got sucked in too, is I didn't have any very good video cards. I tested them all. They were awful. Dwayne Robinson in one of the podcasts said, hey, just get a 1060. They're cheap. They're $200. Put it in, try it. I got on one, and then I tried two, and then I did three, and now I've got four. I'm stopping at four. At this point, it's just plenty good. It's just where I like it. It's a sweet spot. I got it all figured out. So that's a great way to get in. I'll also say I've been exploring this burst coin idea. That's hard drive mining. Many of the listeners of Home Gadget Geeks came out of the home server space. If you have a whole bunch of storage sitting around, you can convert that into burst. Burst plots that does this mining today. A burst coin is worth about 6 cents. You can mine maybe one or two a day. So we're talking about 6 to 12 cents a day. And you kind of go, Jim, that's pretty stupid. Like that's what you should say. If you're a rational person, you should say that's stupid. But that being said, it's kind of fun. It's fun to set up the plots on these hard drives. It's kind of fun to kind of learn the system. You set up a wallet. The only thing you do different, instead of turning your GPU on that's running at 150 watts, you turn your hard drives on, and those run at 5 watts each. So it's a little bit more power consumptions. Bursts, the whole burst idea is to generate a blockchain using less power. That's their whole proof of concept. Can we still secure and build a blockchain, just not using the planet's resources up to get it done? So burst is interesting. I'm doing burst now. If anyone listening to this wants to walk through, I'm not going to make a video because it would be out of date within a week. But if you're interested in doing something like that, I would certainly walk you through that if you want to take advantage of setting. You need probably 4 terabytes or more of open storage that can be dedicated, can't be shared. Once you take it up on burst, it's gone. They're going to use it for these plots. But many of us have a whole bunch of empty storage sitting around. If you want to do that, contact me, and I'll walk you through it. I asked if there are any more questions. Ryan says, nope, this has been great. You are posting it somewhere so I can comb through it. Yeah, well, it will be, Ryan. It's going to be here on the averageguy.tv/live for the next couple days. Well, until next Thursday at a minimum. We'll just leave it out here on the live site that you're at. I will produce it and probably throw it as a special edition into the Home Gadget Geeks cycle. No, it's an RSS feed. There we go. I'm a podcaster. I can't even remember the name of what it's called. We'll put it in the RSS feed so you can download it as well. Nathaniel, anything else before we wrap it?
Nope. I think just keeping the discussion going and sharing learning. Like, as you discover how Burst works and sharing that back with the community, it'd be good. And I've definitely learned a lot from the others in the Reset forums, chatting in the forums there with people, and then from the Facebook group and Mike Uyghur's post is kind of, yes, I'm on the right track. This is working the way I expect. I appreciate that sort of support from the community, and we'll see where it goes.
Cool. I'll remind folks, if you haven't joined us on the Facebook group, it's facebook.com/groups/the average guy. If you just throw that in there, you have to ask to be let in. I'll let you in. We just keeps the spammers out. You mentioned the Reset forums. Go to homeservershow.com and look in the forums. Actually, the very bottom of the forums community is say crypto. Dave started the group Crypto and something that's out there. There's a bunch of us talking about this there. I've actually got McCabe super hooked on Burst. So he had a bunch of hard drives laying around. And so he has been cranking on getting those set up, plotted, and put on Burst. One of the I'd put in the Facebook group to get I'd asked if anybody had a Drobo they weren't using. I kind of wanted to say, hey, could we turn these old Drobos into Burst kind of repositories? And you responded, yeah, you had this one. And so that's the shipping that we're talking about. You shipped it to me. I loaded 4 drives in it, and it's plotting right now. And yes, it plots super slow. So I don't know if it's going to be viable or not. I will know more. It'll get finished plotting tomorrow sometime. And then I'll have to drop that plot into the miner so it'll mine. Well, we'll see how profitable. I have another 3 terabyte drive coming in the mail. It should be here by Monday, so I'll put that in as well. That'll give me 4.5 terabytes of plottable data. The reason I like the Drobo on that is because I could constantly upgrade and throw more. I could create a 16 terabyte partition, and then I could take 1 terabyte at a time and plot it, and I could continue to add drives as I went instead of having to wait for those drives necessarily to be fully realized. And if one of the drives failed, I wouldn't have to replot that all over again. I could just swap it out. So we're trying it. We'll see how it works. I have a feeling that Drobo is going to be a little slow. It was good to see a first gen USB. It's been a while since I saw a first gen USB Drobo. So Nathaniel, thanks for sending that way. It's one thing we should do in the community a little bit more is when when we have an excess of stuff, just throw it out there in the Facebook group and say, hey, I've got this. Does anybody need it? And share that stuff around for sure.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to reuse things instead of collecting dust in the basement.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Postal Service is pretty slick. They get it out the door, and you print the label at home, just drop it off. So
great.
A lot cheaper, I think, than UPS.
My daughter, you put it in a box it must have been frozen food.
Yeah.
So it came, and my daughter pulled it in, and then she put it in the freezer because it said, please keep frozen. So she sends me a text, Dad, you got a package. It said keep frozen. So I put it in the freezer. I'm like, I don't think that's no. It was only in there for about 10 minutes, so it wasn't bad. So I pulled it.
It was colder outside anyway.
It was colder outside. Well, if you're listening live, thanks for listening. We'll throw this down the channel, kind of a add-on to Home Gadget Geeks. And if you have any questions, reach out in the Facebook group. Let me know, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. And don't forget, you can watch this live. Theaverageguy.tv/live. All the live shows are out there as well. Thanks, guys.